out here in the early morning before the sun gets on it. And it'll fill in like crazy, but there's some up at the top I'm still letting grow up. And that is how I have trained it, and I probably won't let it get too much taller because it'll be hard to prune. And as you can see, it's up off the ground too. And I'm up in the San Francisco Bay Area in my client's garden. And I want to share with you today how I have trained this weeping pussy willow. I planted this plant for her, and I've also been pruning it, and it was really small. It was probably like 3 to 4 feet tall and not very wide. And I have gradually trained it over time to get into this form, and it's getting taller and it's getting wider. I don't want it to be quite this wide because it's on that rhododendron right there. It's getting there, so I'm gonna thin it out a bit. And I last pruned it in October, and then I did a light pruning when I was back in December. But this time I flew in because I live in Arizona now, so I didn't bring my tripod, so you're not gonna see me actually doing anything. I'm just going to talk about it. But the graft is inside the plant, and I think I've told you before, you never want to prune below the graft because it'll revert to bush form. I'm going to leave a link to a previous video where I talk about that on the screen in case you haven't seen that. But this was thoroughly pruned in early winter, and now it is July 2nd, and you can see how full it is. In this temperate climate, it really grows like crazy, and it's down on the ground too. So when you prune it on the tips, it encourages it, on the ground, up off the ground, it'll encourage it to do this branching right here. See those branches coming off? And that's what makes it get wider. I'm gonna see if I can get in. I'm not used to doing this. Obviously, I'm not a daily vlogger. There's one there. And that's what makes it get wider, is by tipping it at the bottom. And it also encourages that growth at the top. There, see that coming off? And that's what makes it get taller. So if you don't want it to get taller and wider, you want to prune all that growth off. If you don't, you want to encourage it by doing that. And on this side, I'm going to be thinning some of this growth off because it was actually on top of this rhododendron here, which I don't want. Because it was once a very small plant. And now it's huge. And you can see all that small new growth there. You definitely want to take that off because it's going to make it so dense. But even inside, I don't know if you can see, it's really thick and dense inside there. So I've just basically pruned a little bit in the front, and on the side by the rhododendron, you can see a little more air in the plant now. There's some big cuts I've got to get in there with the loppers and get those bigger branches. But I'm going to see if I can show you inside if there's enough light. Oops, I don't know if you can see those. Those are coming off of the trunk there. You definitely want to take those off. There's the graft. You don't ever want to cut below the graft. And I've cut off most of the sprouts that are growing at the base. There's just a couple there. But you want to take all those off. Oh man. It's a daunting task, even for me. I've been doing it for a while. And it's confusing at first. Because I'm like, where do I start? So, as I said, I start on the inside, the outside, then I go inside, and then I go here and there. And at the end is when I really do the fine tuning. I'm working my way around. I'm taking a lot off the back where the picket fence is. I'm not completely scalping it, but the picket fence is older, so I don't want to do much of it on there. But I need to still thin out there. And I've taken off a lot of the side growth that comes like here. I've taken off a lot of those just so it doesn't come back too thick. Oh, by the way, I am going to take off those two there. There's one that's against the, the palm tree there, because I don't want those two sticking straight up. That's not the look I want. I don't mind it going up and out like those, because that's how it gets taller. I don't want those sticking straight up though. Here comes the wind. So here's my final pile here, and here's the final product. It's all thinned out, but not scalped, and you can see the trunk in there. The trunk structure now, if you get up close, it's beautiful. I really enjoy pruning this plant because it's a challenge. It took me about 2 hours. And for us seasoned gardeners, it's nice to have a challenge. But if you're a perfectionist, this may not be the plant for you. Because it's hard to get perfect, and what is perfect anyway. But it's a great plant. And as you can see, it's starting to grow up. It's actually getting hard for me to reach the top because it is getting so tall. And I left some of them going up and out there, so it will get even a little bit taller because that's what my client wants. So to recap, you thin a bit on the outside, then get on the inside. You thin individual branches. You take a lot of branches out. I took ones that were sticking straight up off, a lot that were crossing over, and that's how you train it. It takes a while. This is a temperate climate, so it grows really fast and it grows a lot. As I said, this is early July. I'll be back up at the end of September, and it'll be all full again, and I'll need to prune it out again because it takes about 3 big prunings here a year. Where you are, it may not take this many, perhaps only 1. So I hope you found this video on how I pruned and mainly trained this weeping pussy willow to be helpful. And as always, there's a post that goes along with it with pictures so you can see more in there. And I thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe. I have a lot more gardening videos coming your way. And speaking of gardening, let's get out in the garden and make the world a more beautiful place.